we have Texas, we have this, we have all of the things. And are people still talking about this guy, this creep? That is unbelievable. I mean, I can't believe you're asking a question on that.
We're plunging headfirst into the pretty fascinating world of media dynamics and political messaging.
Yeah.
Our mission, really unpack how a major news network, Fox News, reacted to a Donald Trump press conference and cabinet meeting. And we're doing this through the lens of analysis from the YouTube channel MeidasTouch.
That's right. We'll sort of set the stage by looking at the claims this analysis makes.
Yeah.
About Fox News' initial reactions first.
Okay.
Then we'll get into the external commentary on Trump's performance. And finally, dive into the alleged strategies the network and its guests apparently used to, manage the narrative.
So by the end of this deep dive, you'll hopefully have a much clearer picture of how information can be shaped, what to look for when you're consuming media. It should give you a bit of a shortcut to being well-informed on this specific event. Okay, let's get into it.
Let's do it.
So the analysis, it kicks things off with what it describes as a really striking scene. Fox News appearing kind of stunned into silence during a cabinet meeting. This was right before a press conference.
The idea of a major network being stunned. What does that even imply about that moment?
Well, it paints a picture, doesn't it? Like they were genuinely taken aback, maybe by something unexpected or, just difficult to frame positively right away.
Right.
And the material, it highlights a specific exchange involving Jesse Waters. He's described reacting to a question about Jeffrey Epstein.
Oh, right.
Yeah, and this was apparently at a time described as one of greatest success, but also, tragedy with what happened in Texas. Waters apparently called the question a desecration.
Wow. And what's really interesting here is this observation from the analysis that Fox then quite literally just cut away from the live feed.
Exactly. The report details the specific moment this supposedly happened. It was when Donald Trump started talking about painting a room a nice beige color.
Beige. Seriously.
Yeah, and apparently debating whether to gold leaf the corners because, quote, they've never found a paint that looks like gold.
It's a pretty bizarre detail, right, for that kind of high stakes moment.
Definitely strange.
And this immediate cut, according to the analysis anyway, was interpreted as an attempt to avoid something potentially utterly embarrassing and humiliating.
So these immediate reactions, the silence, the quick cutaway, what does that signal about maybe media control in live broadcasts?
Well, it potentially signals quite a lot, right? It shows how tightly controlled live TV can be, especially under pressure. It suggests a network making a rapid tactical decision to regain control of the narrative when faced with something maybe challenging or off script. It's a core challenge in real-time media.
Okay, so here's where it gets really interesting. This account then brings in the perspective of podcaster Patrick Bet-David. He was actually brought on by Fox News. And he's described as just flabbergasted by what he saw. He apparently called it by far the biggest fumble of the administration they've had thus far. Strong words.
Very strong. And he apparently cited some pretty compelling data points to back that claim up. He noted Epstein was the #1 trending hashtag on X.
Right, formerly Twitter.
Exactly. With, get this, 2 million people tweeting about it. And he put that into perspective, comparing it to Nicki Minaj at maybe 100,000 and Comey at only like 42,500.
So a huge difference. Bet-David really seemed to highlight a massive messaging failure there. When you see a situation like that where an unexpected, really sensitive topic just explodes, what kind of pressures are political figures immediately facing? Why is that unified messaging so crucial?
Oh, it's immense pressure.
Yeah.
It's like a pressure cooker, really, because a spontaneous viral moment like that can just completely derail a carefully planned message.
Yeah.
And Bet-David's critique on the messaging was pretty sharp. He questioned why Trump's leadership team, and he specifically mentioned the past conversation with Rachel Campos Duffy and Pam Bondi's knowledge of Epstein, didn't seem to have a unified strategy or even like an emergency meeting to get everyone on the same page with messaging. The immediate pressure is always to contain the fallout, control the narrative.
Right.
And without a unified message, that becomes almost impossible. Conflicting or unprepared responses can just amplify the problem, turn a slip up into a full-blown crisis.
Okay, so after this initial shock and the external criticism, the analysis claims Fox News, after sort of regaining its bearings, tried to create a distraction.
Right. This brings us into what the material calls the distraction playbook. a familiar concept in media analysis.
It is. And the first alleged distraction, according to this account, involved going after former FBI Director James Comey and former CIA Director John Brennan.
Okay, familiar targets?
Yeah. Trump's press secretary, Caroline Leavitt, is quoted saying there's an investigation opened up into James Comey and John Brennan possibly lying to Congress in a conspiracy over the Russia hoax. That's the term used by, Trump and his allies for the Russia investigation. Leavitt claimed corruption at the highest levels against President Trump, saying the deep state, that alleged hidden network within government, threw everything at him. She called for truth, transparency, and justice and accountability.
Okay, so that's one angle. Then the second alleged distraction involved bringing on Republican Senator Katie Britt.
Right?
And she apparently attributed criticisms of the administration's response, particularly around the Texas tragedy, to Trump derangement syndrome.
Ah, that phrase again.
Yeah, often used by supporters to label opposition as irrational. She specifically addressed criticisms about things like cuts to the National Weather Service, vacant meteorologist positions in Texas, the alleged elimination of FEMA by the Trump regime, and local officials supposedly not getting alerts. Britt argued it was unbecoming and toxic to turn a tragedy like that into political gain, stressing that not everything has to be political.
So the analysis paints this picture of a really rapid pivot trying to deflect criticism. From a media strategy viewpoint, how effective is that kind of immediate topic shifting usually seen as when you're facing a tough news cycle?
Well, it's a common strategy, definitely. Its effectiveness can be debated, but the goal is clear. When the original narrative gets problematic, you try to create an alternative one, often by attacking critics, like with the deep state claims, or redirecting attention to other charged issues. Senator Britt, using Trump derangement syndrome, is a classic example. Frame the criticism itself as the problem, as irrational, rather than engaging with the actual substance.
Right. Shift the focus onto the critic.
Exactly. It tries to shift the burden of proof. It can work to rally your base, absolutely, and maybe muddy the waters for people who aren't following every single detail closely.
Okay, so continuing with this alleged strategy of shifting focus, the material shows the network then pivoted again. This time to discussions on work requirements for Medicaid and broader government cuts. They brought on Republican Congress members Stuss and Jim Jordan to talk about this.
Right. Stuss and Fox's Cheryl Cassone apparently discussed the 80 hours a month work requirement for Medicaid.
Yeah.
Cassone even noted, kind of wryly, that a lot of people, congressmen, work 80 hours a week. Stute himself apparently expressed a desire for massive cuts to a whole entirety of government programs, but lamented that moderates in our party weren't on board for deeper cuts.
Okay, and then Jim Jordan.
Jordan added his perspective pretty bluntly. If there's an able-bodied adult out there now who is in our welfare system, guess what that person's going to have to work? He argued it's fair to taxpayers, good for our economy, and even good for that recipient. He summed it up as a good bill because the left hates it, claiming it does not empower government. Standard conservative talking points there.
And the alleged distractions, according to the source, didn't even stop there. The analysis then points to criticisms of, quote, woke culture.
The culture wars angle.
Exactly. Specifically targeting Superman and the DC universe. The discussion, as observed by this analysis, claimed the new Superman is too woke.
Define woke in this context.
Well, the criticism seemed to be that it focused on an immigration story, and that this would alienate half the country. It was also noted, apparently with some indignation, that the actor had the audacity to say, instead of fighting for truth, liberty, and great values in America, he refused to say the last part.
Interesting. And finally, the material observes Fox bringing on Riley Gaines to attack transgender athletes.
Right.
Gaines shared her narrative that she tied for 5th in a swimming event, but was told regarding the trophy ceremony that she effectively tied for 1st place, which led to her not holding a gold medal on the podium initially. She hoped this incident would set a precedent for more institutions, colleges, the Olympics, to follow federal law, specifically Title IX.
Title IX, the law about sex-based discrimination in education.
Correct. Gaines praised President Trump, Linda McMahon, Pam Bondi, and the DOJ for their swift and decisive action on this issue, claiming Title IX was, in her words, hijacked under the Biden and Obama administrations.
So you have Medicaid cuts, government spending, woke Superman, transgender athletes. From a media strategy perspective, how effective is throwing all these diverse topics out there perceived to be? Is there a risk of just confusing people, or is this a calculated way to broaden the fight and diffuse the original issue?
Well, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it? This observation highlights a common, though maybe risky, playbook. If one controversy pops up, quickly pivot to other, often pre-existing points of conflict that you know resonate strongly with your core audience.
Right, hitting the familiar notes.
Exactly. By weaving in these topics, government spending, woke culture, transgender athletes, the analysis suggests the network aimed to hit multiple hot-button issues that reliably generate strong reactions and engagement from their viewers.
So the goal isn't really to solve the first problem.
Probably not directly. It seems more about shifting the entire conversation. Replacing one difficult topic with several others that are perhaps more advantageous terrain for the desired narrative. It broadens the front, dilutes the focus on that initial tricky event.
Okay. We've certainly unpacked quite a bit in this deep dive. From the analysis's observations of Fox News' immediate, almost stunned reactions.
That's the shot.
To that challenging press conference, the swift cutaway, and then this series of, alleged strategic pivots aimed at shifting the whole narrative.
Yeah, and as you've heard, really understanding these dynamics, the immediate responses, the outside critiques like Bette David's, and these alleged counter-narratives involving high-profile figures and cultural debates, it offers really valuable insight into how complex information gets presented and, frankly, consumed in today's media world.
So what does all of this mean for you, the listener, trying to be an informed learner?
Well, it really raises an important question for you to think about. When you encounter one of these highly charged media moments, what are those subtle cues, the shifts in topic, the framing, the language used? What might reveal an underlying strategy to manage public perception? And, maybe more importantly, how might recognizing that influence your own understanding of